Welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we're going to be going over the Head of Torment, Hydra head from the Hydra Clan Boss. The brand new head is going to be released coming up soon in patch 5.0. We've got a little bit of time to strategize and talk about it. So let's go over the details. First things first, before we go over the head, let's take a look at the game. We have a couple tournaments going on right now. We got a Classic Arena Takedown, Tag Arena Tournament. We've got a 10 times event with Roshkard the Tower, Norog, Lady Kimmy, Dahanarak, Ugo, Phoenix, Chonaru, and Umbral Enchantress. So if you need any block buffs, champions, this is the time to get them. Got some cleansers there as well. Doing pretty well in the tournaments at the moment. Classic Arena Takedown, I got a sizable lead. I'm going to actually try to place on the global leaderboard this time. I have never ever taken a look at this. I didn't even realize, every time I'm getting first place that I might actually be on this. So there we are, 22nd at the moment. I'm going to be trying to go for as high as I can, maybe top 10 finish. And Tag Team Arena at the moment, looking pretty good as well. In second place here, we got someone pulling up on me there. I'll have to go pull up in that first place. Go get that. I'll be doing that as soon as this video's over. So let's go ahead and get started. Head of Torment is the first head on the list. Let's go over the abilities here. We have 3 abilities: Spectral Jaws, Curse Storm, Almighty Torment. The A1 is Spectral Jaws. Attacks one enemy, has a 50% chance of placing a fear debuff for 2 turns. This debuff cannot be blocked or resisted. After the first attack, attacks all enemies under fear or true fear debuffs. Now it has a decapitation effect. Whenever this head is decapitated, removes all fear and true fear debuffs from all enemy champions, then places a perfect veil buff for 2 turns on 2 random enemy champions. A2 is Curse Storm. Attacks all enemies. Damage increases by 25% for each debuff an enemy is under. Looks like it's a 3-turn cooldown. And then the Almighty Torment passive. Most of the Hydra heads share the same passive or a very, very similar passive. This one is a little bit unique. When attacked by enemies not under perfect veil buffs, there was a typo there before. It said veil and perfect veil, but it says now only perfect veil. When attacked by enemies not under perfect veil buffs, places a true fear debuff on them for 1 turn. This debuff cannot be blocked or resisted. Decreases the damage taken from poison debuffs by 90%, so it's not completely immune to poison, where some of the other heads are, so it seems to be half and half. Decreases the damage all Hydra heads take from AoE attacks by 10%, which tells me that since there's quite a few Hydras that have that same passive ability, it seems to be, or it would seem the reason that AoE attacks are going to be less effective as single target attacks, and maybe something like ally attack, where we can do like single massive target damage. So damage from skills of scale based on enemy max HP cannot exceed 10% of the head's max HP when attacking this head. Damage taken in 1 tick from HP burn, debuffs cannot exceed 20,000 HP. Damage taken from reflected damage, the War Master Mastery or the Giant Slayer Mastery cannot exceed 50,000 per attack. So the damage is capped slightly to some extent. Immune to stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, block active skills, block passive skills, fear, true fear, and petrification debuffs. Also immune to HP exchange effects, HP balancing effects, cooldown increasing effects, and turn meter reduction effects. So immune to a lot of things, but there's so many debuffs in the game that they're also not immune to a lot of them as well. So we'll go over the abilities here real quick. Let's recap. The A1 basically places a fear and then attacks enemies that are under the fear. So you're going to want block debuffs probably on your characters, or some way to cleanse the fears or cleanse your characters in general for this specific head. So let's go over a couple heroes that might be able to help you out. I'm going to say hypothetically speaking here because I don't have access to the clan boss and I haven't tried him yet, so I can't say for certain that this will work. But hypothetically speaking, we have some champions like Inquisitor Shamael here. You might want to check your vault to see if you got one. He has a passive skill here that says, whenever an ally receives a fear or a true fear debuff from an enemy, the skill will instantly remove the debuff and fill the ally's turn meter by 15%. This guy could be absolutely game-changing against the Head of Torment. So make sure you check your vault or to see if you have this character. And if you have him leveled up already, there you go. So you're going to want to level up a couple characters to get this team ready for the Hydra Clan Boss. He might be one of those characters you want to level up. Another character is Sssshhhh from the Undead Hordes. So she has a similar passive that says 40% chance of removing freeze and fear debuffs from each ally at the start of their turn. Removes all debuffs from Rotos to Lost Scrim at the start of their turn if they are on the same team. So not a 100% guaranteed chance, but a 50% chance when booked at the start of their own turn. So if you do get the debuff, Shamel will cleanse it completely. And if you do happen to have it land, and you don't have Shamel on the team, then Sssshhhh could potentially cleanse it at the start of each person's turn. So there's a couple characters that do block debuffs. There's actually a lot in the game. We can go over those characters real quick. We're already looking at one right here on the screen. Sissy, the Lost Bride, can put block debuffs. There's so many in the game. Make sure you have at least one, I guess, on each clan boss team. So they got Blind Seer, Cardiel, Duchess, Lilitu is an amazing character for this, by the way. Acorn Smash Lord, Manaya, Riho, Bone Spear, Underpriest Brogni, Warlord, and then from the epics, we got Achak the Windarin, Grizzled Jarl, Maneater, Madame Ceres, Mausoleum Mage, Quargon the Crown, Sanguinius, Pulcher Sentinel, Skathix, Skytouch Shaman. There's quite a few characters you have options to have the cleanse debuffs or block debuffs. So as far as removing the debuffs goes, we have a lot of champions that could be amazing, especially actually right now in the 10 times chance, Tahanarak. So Tahanarak has the passive here, removes one random debuff from all allies at the start of each turn, and removes 2 random debuffs instead from allies under continuous heal effects. It's like the buffed up version of Doom Priest. We also have Doom Priest as well. Go find her in the Knights Revenant faction. Doom Priest, very similar ability, heals all allies by 7.5% of their HP and removes 1 random debuff from them at the start of this champion's turn. Then we have tons and tons of cleansing champions in the game. Again, Bad Elkazar, Cardiel, Countess Lix, Acorn Smash Lord, Raglan, Riho Bone Spear, Spartorsis, Bergumkar, Underpriest Brogni, and the brand new character Wither the Crowned. So tons and tons and tons of options here as far as removing debuffs goes, and also blocking debuffs, which is going to be essential to beating the Head of Torment here. So go ahead and take another look at the Head of Torment. Now, if we don't have any debuffs on our characters, we're not going to have any extra additional damage from Curse Storm here either. And as far as Perfect Veil goes, there are very, very, very few champions in the game that can actually put a Perfect Veil on your whole team. And you can like count them on one hand. The main one that we already went over is Duchess. So Duchess Lilitu is one of the most badass characters in the whole game. From the Demon Spawn faction, go ahead and check her out. Places a Veil buff on all allies except this champion for 1 turn. This is on the revive, sorry. This is A3. Let's go to A2. Places a block debuffs buff and a 50% increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns. Then places a perfect Veil buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. It's on a 4-turn cooldown. Check out the A2. Shroud of Souls places a block debuffs buff and a 50% increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns. Places a perfect Veil buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. And then on the A3, Spectral Rebirth revives all dead allies with 70% HP. Places a Veil buff on all allies except this champion for 1 turn. Places a 15% continuous heal buff on all allies for 2 turns. She's clutch when it comes to placing the Veils. And we have one more, Rector Drath. Go find her real quick. She is absolutely amazing. I think she's over here in the Knights Revenant faction. Here we go. So I don't have her personally. I'm going to be in trouble when it comes to placing the Veils. But we have Necro Mutation. Heals all allies by 20% of this champion's max HP. After healing, places a perfect Veil buff for 2 turns on all allies with full HP. Places a 15% continuous heal buff for 1 turn instead on all allies with less than 100% HP. So she definitely has these perfect Veil placement abilities. She can put them on the entire team, unlike Duchess. Revives a single ally spirit form with 60% HP and fills their turn meter by 60%. Places a perfect Veil buff on them for 3 turns. So she has a couple different ways to do it. Rector Drath, and then we have one more champion here, which I think is a pretty unused champion from the rares. And I'm talking about Steadfast Marshal. So Steadfast Marshal places a Veil buff on all allies except his champion for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown on his A3. So he might actually have a use in the game for once. So I doubt anyone was using him before. You might want to find the Steadfast Marshal. Might want to build one up. He can place the Veil on the whole team. 3-turn cooldown. Pretty cool. So we have one more character that can actually place the Veil, but it's like under some real strict circumstances. So he has the ability, but unless you build your team properly, he's not going to be placing it on the entire team. So Quargon the Crowned on his A3 attunement places a perfect Veil buff and a 50% increased attack buff for 2 turns on all allies whose attack is higher than their defense. So this is not going to be like Razan Scarhide. It's going to be more like Ninja. So if you put a whole team of ninjas and Trunda Guilt Mallets and characters like that on your team, he can put perfect Veil on all of them. If they have higher defense than they do attack, he's going to place a block debuffs buff for 1 turn and a 60% increased defense buff for 2 turns, and on all allies whose defense is higher than their attack. So, you know, you might want to bring him, a Duchess, and then bring, I mean, not Duchess on the same team, but a Reviver, someone who can, you know, probably has higher defense than the rest, and then bring nothing but attack champions to go along with them. So he's a bit specific kind of niche, but he's not a legendary, so he's more accessible. Very few champions that can actually do that kind of stuff. So there we have it, the Head of Torment. I feel like you're going to have a good chance of fighting heads like this with single target, high damage, people like Rhodos, Turvold, people like that. You got Phoenix, who can do the block buffs. There's a lot of different options. So I feel like each team is going to have to deal with whatever capabilities each head has individually, and you might have a couple characters that can kind of overlap and do more than one thing, like Siphi, for example. So this head, very specific. He has the Fear, True Fear, the Perfect Veil interactions, and the debuffs. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. I actually love strategizing and taking a look at stuff like this. I love these in-game encounters. So I'm looking forward to doing the rest of the heads. We got 5 more to go. I hope I see you guys in the next video. You guys have a great one. Peace.